Late night return. Nanako was tucked into bed by you. "Big bro, good night," she said, drifting off to sleep. You smiled and patted her head. He left the room and entered the living room. He's not home. Still, should I wait up for him? You decide to go do some studying. And on the living room couch, he studied until he fell asleep. Dojima returned home very late, and you had fallen asleep, his book resting on his chest. He waited for me. Guilt edged on his weary mind. Nanako's already asleep. Great. I'm sure doing a super job, Dojima said, sarcasm lacing his voice. He took the book off Yu's chest and got a close look at Yu's face. He felt his heartbeat quicken. A small spark ran through him. His eyes focused on the boy's lips. I wonder if he's had his first kiss yet. Dojima leaned closer and closer. And before he could stop himself, he was kissing him. He moaned against the boy's lips. His eyes shot open, and he pulled back as if his kiss would burn the boy. What am I doing? He looked back at you and froze in shock as he was staring right back. Is a kiss all you wanted? You said, sitting up. Dojima blushed and began to stutter. If you want more, we can do more. You started removing his clothing. His shirt came off, exposing his lean body. Dojima licked his lips. Narukami worked his belt and unzipped his pants. Before Dojima could speak, his pants and boxers were dropped, and he stood naked, his cock standing tall from a small nest of silver hair. Dojima stared practically, eye-fucking his young charge. His cock was now bulging, making his pants unbearably tight. You smiled and stepped out of the last bit of clothing he had. He walked over to the older man, his body holding all the courage he had. Dojima was unable to speak as his pants were undone, and his pants and boxers pooled around his ankles. His thick cock sprang up, and you could smell his musky scent. He stared at the mature arousal with the thick nest of hair that crowned his crotch. His hand came up to cup his hairy balls, and the man moaned and shivered at the touch. The younger male smiled at the reaction. He gripped the man's cock and slightly stroked as he licked the exposed head. With his other hand massaged the sensitive sack. Dojima couldn't believe the sexy young man was servicing him, and how good he was at it. Fuck you, Dojima moaned before covering his mouth to muffle his moans. Dojima was fighting an internal battle as he knew he should stop this, that he never should have started this with that kiss. But since his nephew was being so willing, it was difficult to resist, and you seemed determined to make him come. That hand on his cock worked him faster, and he felt warm lips wrap around his head. Feeling the young man suck up on his crown was too much. You! Stop, I'm gonna come! The hands on his cock and balls left to grip him by his lips. You started bobbing his head and sucking and licking each inch that entered his mouth. He took Dojima as far as he could in his mouth and bobbed back and forth, trying to milk the man of his release. Damn! Fuck! He came blowing his load. The first shot went down Narukami's throat. But then he pulled back and caught the next 4 spurts in his mouth. You tasted the man licking the leaking head and tasting the thick seed. It was a bit bitter, but good in his own opinion. With ease, he swallowed and pulled off the dick off his lips. He looked up at the man with lust-filled eyes. Dojima turned away. Fuck! I can't look at him now. you want to keep going?" you asked, standing up. Dojima looked at the plump virgin rear. He dispatched his shirt and stepped out of his clothing. He pushed the young boy on the couch. He got between his spread legs. He lifted one leg up onto his shoulder and positioned it by his twitching cock at the boy's virgin hole. He slid his cock along the boy's crack, getting pre-cum and saliva all over the boy's hole. "This will hurt your first time, but I can't stop myself." You relaxed. "I understand." Dojima pushed forward his thick cock, piercing the boy's virgin entrance. "Ugh, it hurts." Dojima kissed the boy to silence him, his head reaching between them to pump his erection. You moaned into the older man's mouth, and Dojima could feel him loosening up due to the pleasure working through him. So he pushed in another inch. He went slowly, waiting for Yu to relax before pushing his cock deeper into him. Yu's body seemed to accept everything he gave, and although he shed tears of pain, he was moaning into his mouth, and his cock remained hard. Soon, Dojima's cock was fully seated inside him, and he moaned as those hot inner muscles squeezed his dick. Yu broke the kiss to moan and duck his hips. "I'm not fragile. Please move." Dojima kissed his forehead and obeyed. He pulled back and buried his cock in one thrust. He could tell the boy was still in pain, but the pleasure began to overload it. He quickened his pace on the boy's cock, making him moan and buck in his grasp, and the boy continued to squeeze his dick. "Fuck! So hot, damn. It's like you want me to fill you up." Dojima moaned and changed the angle on his thrust and brushed the little bundle of nerves inside him. "Yes, fill me up. Please, give me everything you've got," he moaned in response. And he tightened up on Dojima. "Fuck. I'm coming!" Narukami moaned, and he came, his seed spraying all over his chest and abs, and Dojima's stroking hand. Dojima groaning and continued to thrust into his tight heat. "Fuck, fuck, fuck, fuck!" With a moan, he came, spraying his thick seed into the boy's body. He collapsed against Narukami, and the boy wrapped his arms around him. "That was so amazing," he spoke, as his softening cock slipped out of him, followed by a flood of cum. Narukami groaned at the loss. "Not regretting it, I hope?" Dojima pulled back to look at you. "Can't say that I am." He kissed the boy's neck, and the boy pulled away. He stood up, and cum spilled down his thighs. "I need to turn, and it's better if you clean up here." Dojima stared at the cum-covered naked youth. You're going to bed like that?" "Yeah, I usually sleep naked anyway. Good night." He went upstairs and Dojima cleaned up, nursing a major nosebleed. Good to know, he thought. The bond between you and Dojima increased greatly. The end.